The Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative, or GLCI, is a nationwide collaborative process of individuals and organizations working together to maintain and improve the management, productivity, and health of the nation's privately owned grazing lands. GLCI was developed to provide for a coordinated effort to identify priority issues, find solutions, and effect change on private grazing lands. This initiative is complementing and enhancing existing conservation programs.
NRCS is an organization that since its founding has worked with partners. Back in 1935, 36, 37, Hugh Hammond Bennett, along with President Franklin Roosevelt, sent out the model district law establishing conservation districts. We've been partners for 75 years. We're partnered with organizations across this country. But there's not a more key partner that we have than the Grazing Land Conservation Initiative. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. I was the state conservationist in Montana, worked with ranchers across that great state, and the GLCI committee there was one of the best groups I ever worked with.
The GLCI, Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative, was started by a group of very interested conservationists in 1991 in Bozeman, Montana. Primarily to do two things: to put people on the ground, such as Soil Conservation Service had for years and years, called technical service, and to provide additional research and education for grazing lands.
So our assistance, the technical assistance provided by the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the Soil and Water Conservation Districts, working in concert with the landowners, utilizing all of the science that is behind it, from the university systems to the research organizations and agencies, is really dedicated to producing food and fiber from these grazing lands in a manner that sustains the ecology and the environment.
The farm bills have mandated that we use 60% of the funds to go to the livestock producers, and through this partnership that we developed with the GLCI, working together to coordinate our resources and our efforts, this is what the GLCI is all about.
USDA Farm Bill programs, administered by the Natural Resources Conservation Service, are a vital link between NRCS and GLCI's success.
NRCS, over the many years that we've been farming, has been of great aid to us, in not only in just technical assistance but financial assistance in different cost share programs, and one that we have just started on this year is the EQIP program. And through that EQIP program, we've been able to get cost share on some pasture renovation, as well as like I mentioned, the nutrient management program, where we're going to put in a lagoon and capture the waste from our dairy barn and be able to put that out on the land and further use that.
But the biggest thing is they have all the expertise, and if more of our people would go to the NRCS with these problems, NRCS will provide professional expertise.
GLCI is actually where the rubber meets the road for us. Our job, the agency, doesn't accomplish conservation unless farmers are willing to put that technology on the ground.
Well, I think in managing any kind of land or any kind of natural resources, you have to include three basic tenets, and those are an ecological base, an economic outcome, and a cultural acceptance. You have to make sure that you're always balancing those three things.
GLCI keeps its members and the ranching community up to speed in many ways. Farm and ranch tours, like this one in Florida, expose members to different techniques in grazing lands management.
Well, I've seen a lot of good grazing lands management, water management, rotational grazing, just the overall approach to having good grazing management, getting maximum production, also maintaining an environment that's good for wildlife, the environment. So I think we're seeing a good total resource management systems on these ranches we're seeing.
Well, we try to demonstrate to them today Our pasture grazing systems that we use that are very similar to a native range type grazing with rotation and using multiple paddocks at different times of the year and less during the growing season. And also just let them see the diversity that it takes to maintain a viable agricultural operation in Florida.
Conferences are another way to spread the GLCI message to a national audience.
You'll find three groups of people for the most part that attend. Obviously, producers. Our nation's farmers and ranchers are the ones we're trying to attract. We have a lot of people from academia also that are in the schools of agriculture and the rangeland management and the other natural resource schools. And then you have all of the federal, state, and local land management and other public land agencies that have something to do with our nation's lands, both public and private.
And I'm glad I came because visiting the different grazing booths and stuff downstairs have gave me a lot of information to take back home to small farmers like myself. And this is a great thing. It really is. It's more what can come from this is the information to help us in the grazing land and preparing me for the future. And that's what to me what it's all about.
I think really what I wanted was to be exposed to what other projects people were working on. I am a grazing technician. I work in a large area pretty much by myself, except for the specialists, of course. So I wanted to see what people who had similar positions as I am, what they're doing. And that's really what I wanted to take away. And also to meet farmers from different areas and see what innovative methods they're using for grazing, for marketing their products.
What a great opportunity to visit with our peers and our friends and share some of the ideas we're doing down on the ground.
I have several reasons for being here, but one of them is because I am the cattle manager and we have Brangus cattle. I'm in an intensive grazing system, have been for 20 years. I wanted to learn more about that and how other people handle it and how I can refine it. I learn through literature, but it's nice to get here and talk to other ranchers and see what they are doing so that I can improve upon what we do. Our emphasis is on wildlife and cattle. And so in that regard, I need to really relate with other folks and see what I can do that might help our quail population or our deer population. And we have a lot of waterfowl and trying to make sure that we're providing everything we can for them while we graze. And this is a good forum for that, and so that's why I'm very interested in it. The other part is a member of the GLCI in our state and the Society for Range Management. And we all work with grazing lands in one way or another, and there are folks that are in these organizations, and it's very important that we learn from each other so we don't make the same mistakes, and also that we learn how to have more political input.
I've learned things about cover crops. I've learned things about incorporating different kinds of crops, different kinds of livestock into grazing schemes and into cropping schemes also that relate back to soil health. And just so far, yeah, my mind is jumping right now.
Oh, I'm excited about what I'm hearing so far. Excellent speakers, very knowledgeable speakers. And producers are involved in this conference as well, and they bring their experience to us. So we're able to hear and things that are happening all over the United States. It's an excellent opportunity for us to get much knowledge, much needed knowledge, and we want to go back to the States and make sure that the other producers hear this same message as well so that they can reap the benefits. And we're going to get a copy of all the proceedings here, whether we can't possibly attend all the concurrent sessions, but we will be able to have those proceedings, and it serves as excellent reading matter for later and a reference guide.
Oh, I think the greatest thing about these conferences is the networking you do with other people from throughout the country.
In addition to national conferences, the Montana GLCI has produced public service announcements to get the Grazing Lands Conservation message to the general public.
This tranquil moment on the range is brought to you by the Montana Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative. Everything else is brought to you through the spirit and dedication of Montana's ranching families. Let's face it, ranchers have never been long on speeches. So, from the Montana Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative, we'd like to say, thanks, partner. We could tell you that their efforts generated millions of dollars into Montana's economy, and that their industry is responsible for creating hundreds of jobs. We could tell you that their conservation efforts are improving wildlife and fisheries habitat and soil and water quality. But we prefer to tell you the most important thing. They care. We're the Montana Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative, and so do we.
Membership in GLCI has many benefits, not only to its members, but to the natural resources that they help protect.
The American taxpayers allow us to use some of their money down on the ground to take care of that greatest renewable resource that we have. So GLCI is that link to how we can help share with our other neighbors. I'd rather be a giver than a taker, and that's why I'm such a proponent of GLCI, the Grazing Lands Conservation Initiative. It's down on the ground, people working together through the cooperativeness of the NRCS, our Natural Resource Conservation Service, and in the state of Montana, our extension. Brings value added, if you would, to conservation. Ranchers sometimes do better looking over the fence and talking rather than waiting for somebody to show up maybe with an answer that our question afraid that they don't have an answer for. I think if we can work together down on the ground, taking care of the greatest renewable resource that we have, our grazing lands, and we can help our communities and our families be sustainable, both economically and socially.